Welcome to the National Women's Fitness Academy podcast. We're here to talk about women's health, female hormones, body image, and all things health and fitness.
Hello, girls. Welcome back to another episode of the Women's Fitness Academy's podcast. I'm your host, Siggy, one of the WFA's educators and a women's body image and health and mindset coach. Guys, today I'm chatting with the lovely Emily Rolls, who is the owner of Aesthetic. And if you're not aware of who this lovely lady is, she is a professional photographer and also an IFBB competitor. And today's episode is going to take you on a wild ride and a little bit of behind the scenes of what it's like to be a competitor, but also as a professional photographer. And Emily's going to share a little bit of what it looks like in terms of a photographer when coming across clients who are wanting to do photo shoots. And she has this beautiful way of capturing this, like, I want to say, from what I can tell, it's like this dark, feminine, sexy side of us women. And correct me if I'm wrong, do you also photograph men?
Yes, I do. Mostly bodybuilders. So mostly gym kind of dark photo shoots. But yeah, I've had a few clients as well that have wanted to do like lifestyle stuff as well. So yeah definitely both.
Love that.
Predominantly women.
Cool. Well, ladies, if you're wanting to shoot with Emily, she's your gal. But Emily, I wanted to ask you before we jump into like what it looks like behind the scenes, like what made you become a photographer? Like, have you always been a photographer?
Yeah, so I had it as a hobby since high school. I chose it in art for like my subject. And then from there, I always kept it as just something I loved to do. Like got my first camera when I was, in grade 11, I think. And then from there, just kept it and never really thought that I could make a career out of it. I thought I'd have to just have a whole lot of money and, it just wasn't feasible. So then I got into nursing when I graduated high school, but always kept it there. And then with COVID, like everything that happened with COVID, that was like the turning point where I was like, I wanted to just fully immerse myself in it and do something like for myself and go for it. So I did.
And I love here we are. It's so refreshing to hear that, because as someone, like, I'm a big advocate of creative art and photography, and funnily enough, I have a degree in photography as well. But just like you, I was a photographer, and then you get these self-limiting beliefs come in and you're like, oh, this is not going to be a long-term career. And then you get people's opinions and beliefs onto you and you're like, maybe I'll choose a different path. So I love how you've kind of like reverted back to your original aspiration of being a photographer, and now you're just like making it work. And I also want to ask you, like, what made you, like, I know you mentioned like COVID kind of made you shift back to it, but like what actually sparked your creative side back to photography?
It was really after my first competition, because that was really at the start of the pandemic. So everything started shutting down right after I did my first competition. And then from there, I just really fell out of love with nursing, because I'd been nursing for, I think, about 5 years at that point. And I was just in the hospital system, so it just wasn't a great time. So then I decided pretty much, I actually moved interstate for a while and had a new job in an emergency department, and I really just didn't enjoy it. And so that was the point where I was like, I'm going to move back home. I'm going to start it again, and I'm just going to go full send on it. And I met some beautiful women. I'd like reached out to a few friends and then like influencers and stuff, and did my own, like the first proper day of shooting. I shot with about 10 different models, and some brands sent me some bikinis and stuff. And that was like day one, I guess, of really just going for it. And it was the best thing I could have done, because I made some amazing friends out of it. And then from there, it all just started progressing after that point. So,
I think the initial part of starting back into a business or starting a business is literally like putting ourselves out there. And I know a lot of our listeners can resonate to this because many of them are aspiring to be coaches or are coaches. And it can be quite, what's the word I'm looking for? Like challenging to put yourself out there when you're just getting started.
Daunting, especially if you have like a stable career as well, something that's, you know, like nursing, where there's always work for nurses. It was, yeah, just going, well, I can drop back to a casual position. I actually still have my registration and I still am a part of the hospital system, but I only work very, very rarely there, just helping out when they need extra staff. So, but I probably do it once every 3 months, and that's my minimum requirement to keep that, because I'd like to still keep my rego. Like it's something that I was at university for. So, and it still ties in. Like I'm glad I did the nursing as well, because that just, I guess, funnels into how I am as a photographer and as a person now. I'm very empathetic and nurturing, and I really like, I love that I've got that background to bring into like this space, because I think people obviously in the industry, it can get a bit superficial, I guess, in some ways, but me bringing across my nursing and that has really just made this a lot more just personal, and it's more about like the experience of it rather than just having some nice photos to post on Instagram.
Let's talk about the superficial stuff side of things, because as a photographer, I'm sure you see plenty of this.
Yes. Like, don't get me wrong, I love making things look pretty. Like that's my life. But like, I think there's so much more that comes with that. Like it's much like of an that's my thing. It's about being really internally driven as to why you're putting yourself out there in that way. So if you're doing it to impress others, or if you're doing it to like just impress yourself. So that's my biggest thing, is just doing it for yourself. So yeah.
When it comes to doing the photo shoots for yourself, I know in the past I've made the mistake of doing a photo shoot to get the validation from other people, whether it's like a breakup or like a weight loss goal that you've achieved, or just literally just wanting to show off your body. But I also know you're very big on empowering women to do the photo shoot in any stage of their life.
Exactly. So when I started going full ham into the business as well, I made like a personal goal that I would do regular photo shoots. I'd book them for myself every few months, no matter what was happening. And that was like a little investment in myself and my own journey, because then I look back and I'm like, hell yeah, like that just, it boosts your confidence every time you get in front of a camera. And if it's just for you and it's not for any real valid reason, it just makes it so much better, because you're like, I just did that for me. It's like, that's my accomplishment. And now I'm just going to like, it just gets better every time. And I've got clients that come back and just do shoots for the hell of it, and they love it, because each time it's something new and exciting, and they're like wanting to do different things, and the confidence that it builds is like, it's so cool to see, like as a professional and as like as a woman as well. So yeah.
It's so true. And I guess the confidence also comes from like their will of actually putting themselves out there to do the photo shoot. What are some things or some tips that you could give our listeners who are, I guess, frightened of actually putting themselves in front of a camera and getting a photo shoot done?
It is, because I do shoot with a lot of like first timers, and I love it, because I remember how it was for me when I did my first photo shoot, which you hear horror stories sometimes, but I actually had the most amazing first photo shoot I did with another local photographer here. And she was very much like, she's very similar to how I am. So she was really nurturing and like gave me a lot of confidence. And when I did it, even though I look back and I look at the photos, I'm like, wow, I look like a stun mullet, because I was still so like nervous. I was like, how do I look? How do I pose? But from each one that I've done since then, like, and you can just see like through the photos that confidence build. So it's just getting in and doing it. Like, it's like anything, whether it's training or like something that you haven't done before, you're starting from the ground up, but it's such an awesome journey to have and to like build that confidence through it. So just getting in and doing it and not feeling like you have to act a certain way because you naturally is what I want to capture. Because when there's like a point that happens all the time in shoots where people, you can see when they just let go and they're just fully immersed in it. They're like, screw it. And then the photos that come out of that, they're the ones that they love the most because they can see where that point changes. Like, they go from looking a bit stale to like just complete goddess. And it's like, that's it. We've nailed it.
I absolutely love that. And I can so relate to that because look, thinking back of my first ever photo shoot, I remember the photographer was like helping me to like where to put my arms and like how to stand and how to move. Where now I'm just like, I don't even give a fuck. If I'm smiling, I'm smiling. If I look like a bitch, just take it.
Exactly.
Because I know like I'm sure a lot of our listeners are like, yeah, cool, Emily. Like, yeah, I need to let go and just like be myself. But some women just don't know what that feels like for them. So what are some things that have helped you to, let go, not only as a photographer, but also as a competitor? Because we know like when you're placing yourself on stage, you have to act in a certain way, but also just let go of whatever the outcome is going to be.
Yeah. I feel like I'll tell clients that like if they have to just put themselves like where they want to be rather than where they like feel like they need to be, like, do they want to show up as this confident woman or do they want to look reserved? And like, it's more just kind of moving them through the phases of it and not like, I'm not going to stand there and just have the camera and be like, do your thing. I'm going to try and like guide as much as possible. I'll usually do a pose like for them. Like, I'll help them like get into poses if they're not sure. But it's just giving them, and I guess with how I interact with them on the day, it's just making them comfortable and just making them feel that they can just do whatever they want and go for it. And depending on where we are, whether it's beach or if it's at a house, it's just that like fuck it mentality. It's just like, I'm just going to do like what I want to do, show up. And that's what the photos just, they're amazing. Like when you can tell that they've really just like gone for it and just embraced the whole thing. Yeah. It's like, it's the connection that I have with them. And then for them just to fully embrace it themselves, it's just creating the space to like have that letting go.
And like you said before, I think it also comes down to the nature of yourself and your personality, because as someone who's very connected to their feelings, can relate to other people, then your clients are going to feel so much more comfortable with you in that presence as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like knowing, like, I guess telling them how my first photo shoots and stuff were and like kind of giving them a bit of my background. And if they've already they already would kind of know if they followed me on Instagram, because I share a lot of that stuff anyway, but they're just confident because they want to embrace that side of themselves. So it's like, if I can do it, then anyone can do it. So that's what my business is really all about. So
with, as a photographer, have you worked with many other photographers?
Yeah, like it's crazy, like not on the same like photo shoot, but we'd be in similar, like in WBFF peak weeks and stuff, we're all doing heaps of shoots and sometimes we'll be in the same location because the styling and that is all in the same spot. So it's actually such a cool, like, we actually have a group chat that's always going off with all of the photographers that are like local here, and everyone just has their own style, and it's really like it's awesome because we can refer clients to, like, I can refer them to other photographers that'll suit what they want a bit more. So it's really nice to not feel like it's not toxic in any way. It's just really like everyone has the way they do it, and it's each one, we're really unique in the way, like none of us are really the same, because that's, I guess, the beauty of being like artists, is we all have our own way of doing it. So we'll have clients that'll shoot with each one of us because they want each style. So yeah. It's really nice.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because I think it's also a quite similar way of the fitness and health industry. Instead of us competing against one another, it's just like, let's work together, because my expertise is going to look something different to the, you know, girl next door. So like, work together.
Yeah, because coaches, like for example, like friends that have come to me and they've asked me about my coach, and just knowing like different personality types and how people may train differently, or just how people are, can just really dictate kind of who you kind of go with. So everyone that I know is just really like just like, oh, this person might be a better fit for you, or like, you know, if they're similar to me, then my coach would be perfect. But it's like it's really, I guess on the Gold Coast, I've always had quite a positive experience with that. I've never really seen a lot of my friends that are coaches are very much like, I'm not the person for you, but this person might be. So yeah, it's really nice that there's just that shared kind of, it's a nice like positive kind of thing at the moment. So yeah.
I love that. Has it always been a positive experience for you as a photographer, or have there been times of despair or negativity?
I haven't had any, like, truly that I can think of, any negative experiences with like people in competition. Like with me, it's more, I get people up like, and I find it kind of funny a little bit, because, and I guess that people, I guess, see my work and want to do the same thing. So I'll get photographers that might do a lot of my style of imagery. Like my bodybuilding style is black and white, and it's kind of become a bit like recognizable with that. So I've had people sending me photos of like photographers and creators doing a lot of similar things. It's only when it's like things that are a direct copy, like similar. I had another content creator that was putting up the same captions and like really distinctly the same stuff, but it doesn't make me feel like, what's the word? Like, I'm not mad about it, because they're obviously just trying to figure out who they are, but I want them to go and like figure that out. Just don't do exactly the same thing. Just get your style.
Yeah.
But if I can be like the person that inspires someone to go out and do what they want to, like do something different or try something new, then that's awesome. But yeah, just as long as you're completely true to yourself, then nothing else really matters. Your own personality and stuff will come into it, and that's what makes each photographer and each competitor, each coach, like that's what makes us all unique. So yeah.
So it's so true, because like you mentioned a really good point where, you know, not only as photographers, but like as humans or coaches, we're always trying to figure out what is our next best step, or what is a signature package, I guess. You know, for yourself right now, it's like the black and white, the bodybuilding dark mode side of things. And as you mentioned, there was other content creators who were similarly looking up to you and in a way copying your work, but not realizing that, you know, they were literally copying you. So in a way, it's kind of, you know, I wouldn't say not inspiring, but it's just quite admirable, because they are looking up to you. They are noticing that inspiration coming through. but like you said, it's not true to them. So my next question is, how did you come across this like dark mode creativity? Like, have you always had that, or is that something that over the years you've changed?
Yeah. So I've always, like when I was younger, I was like obsessed with, I was a bit of a metal, like little metalhead, like 80s rock, and like just I had my hair dyed black and I was very much like that. And I've always had that, but I had my social media quite bright. And when I started law, I was kind of like, I've got to be like coastal, like it's the Gold Coast and it's beachy. So I've got to kind of, I created my style through that, but I'd always kind of kept my, like the darker kind of stuff, which I love. It was just, I kind of put it on tap because it wasn't, popular with everyone. Like it just seemed, I didn't want to seem like an emo kid or like goth kind of thing like that. I don't see myself as that. It's more just the like aesthetic side of it that I like. Like I literally wear nothing but black all day, every day. And the black and white style of photography, I've always like loved that, especially for bodybuilding. But I knew that just always shooting in black and white wasn't gonna like do it for me. Like I still needed to have that mixing it up. So with law, it's very much just like the style that I've created is kind of a blend of that now, where I've gotten a bit deeper and richer in the colors, but it's not super dark like I have on my like personal page, because that's my personal aesthetic. Whereas law, it's more how I like to edit, but it's going to suit a whole range of images that I'm trying to tell someone else's story, not mine. So yeah, I've always had that, like I've always loved everything dark, but for a lot of years, I was trying to like keep my Instagram bright and more, I guess, marketable, because I was trying to like establish my business. But then I kind of had a turning point. I think it was the end of my last relationship, where I was like, when you like dye, like when you change your hair color or something like that, it might be similar, but I literally just decided to completely like go exactly like just do me and like post what I want to post with my darker aesthetic. And it's just from there, I've like developed presets and stuff. I've got a little online store and it's gone off. Like it's done really, really well. And I'm living in my element. So people really respond to that. And they're just like, I want a little piece of it. And so yeah, that's what I'm kind of like aiming to do with law, and my personal brand is just to keep inspiring people to do what they want to do. So yeah.
It's also an energy side of things, because when people can really notice your true energy and your true inspiration of your artwork, they're gonna want more of it. They're wanting to be part of it. And I love the fact that you mentioned how you had this perception when you first started, how you needed your page to be bright and sunny and aesthetic because like you're in the Gold Coast and people love bright photos. But then you had this switch, obviously, after the breakup, where you're like, what, like literally having a conversation with yourself going like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, why am I keeping this way when literally my whole life is fucking dark and I love it? It's like empowering. Let's change it.
Yeah. So you can actually see on my photography page where it started to go darker, but it's like, I've done it in a way, I'd made all the colors a lot deeper and richer, but it just makes the subject stand out so much more. So it's like, I've found the balance now, and it's really cool that I can have that as like my business, but then it ties in really well with my life and my personal brand, I guess. So yeah, and people love it. They love, like they'll book specifically to have those dark photos, so because they vibe with it, that's like their vibe. So Yeah,
It's a unique way of looking at photography as well, because we know with photography and art, it's very colorful and bright. But now we have this other side of photography where, you know, as you mentioned, like that dark mode side of things that enhances the photo as well.
yeah. And women, I guess I get a lot that it's more of that people are recognizing, I guess, whether it's through my business or through me, it's like dark feminine energy. And that's what I vibe with. So I'll have women that will come and they want to shoot, you know, somewhere really dark. I did a photo shoot with a girl called Ariel. She's from Melbourne, and she's absolutely jacked. She's like, I think she competed in wellness, and now she's going up to like, I think women's bodybuilding. Like she's proper, very muscular, but so like shooting in the middle of her like bulking phase, but just looking so feminine and confident and just beautiful. Like the images were insane. So it's really cool to see people kind of, you know, engage with that, and they want to like embrace that for themselves. So yeah.
Speaking of embracing, I'm gonna rewind a bit because you made a comment before saying that after your breakup, you made that switch. And I find lately, I don't know if it's because I'm going through a breakup and there's so many women that I'm talking to that are going through breakups, but there's something that at the end of any relationship, whether it's with a partner, friendship, whatever it is, we kind of have this like switch and we're like, fuck it. Like, why am I doing this? And let's change it. So I would love to know, what was your internal dialogue after your previous breakup to you to going into this, you know, dark mode status?
Yeah. It was kind of like I was holding myself back, like being in that where I was, I had I guess, a bit of a wall up, or whether I was just not fully immersing myself in me, I guess, in a way, because I was just kind of people pleasing. Like I'm a Libra. I like love everything pretty and everyone to be happy and that kind of thing. So I think when I just had that independence back, it was what just took me like to the next level. And I think a lot of women after breakups, it's just like a slingshot of like of just, you either choose to like kind of stay upset and you like, you know, confined in whatever like, you know, you're going through, or you choose to just go for it. And most women that I know, like that post breakup glow up, like every single like end of a relationship that I've been through, it's been like another, like when I'm free to do what I want to do, it's insane the progress that I make in like my life and my business and just personally. So yeah, I love that about breakups. It sounds weird. It's like, I can't wait to see what you do next, because this is like, there was I think it's Alexis Ren. She's a influencer and she's a model on social media. She was talking about it in a podcast with Jay Shetty. And it was, about just embracing yourself and having like, when you've only got yourself, it's like limitless what you can do. So I just took that and just decided I'm doing exactly what I want to do, showing up how I want to show up. And then from there, it's been incredible, like how my business has grown and like how my life, like the trajectory of it, and like going to the Olympia and taking photos like of bodybuilders, like the best bodybuilders in the world, and getting that opportunity, and then them sharing my photos has just been like, if I would have like seen that happening like a year ago when the breakup happened, I would have not believed it. I would have been like, no way am I getting there that quickly. But it just, one thing after another, like started working with the IFBB here, like in the media team here. And then, literally not even 12 months later, I'm at the Olympia and competing as well. So that was cool.
Why do you think you held yourself back?
I think I find being in relationships, I'm quite, I guess, I put a lot into the other person as well. I'm trying to build them up while I'm building myself up. So I was still like, I'd already had law for about just under a year, and I was just establishing that. And I was also trying to establish my ex's coaching business as well. So it was very much trying to prioritize the relationship and all of that. And I didn't have that real extra time to myself that I have now. And now I'm really selfish with that. So yeah, it was more, I guess, just figuring out where, like, and if you have, that's the most important thing, I guess, being in a relationship, is to have that freedom to do exactly what you want to do and not feel like you've got to put the other person completely before yourself. So yeah, it was just that next level when we'd broken up that I was able to completely just do exactly what I wanted to do, and nothing else was holding me back from that. So yeah.
Do you think
Saying
do you
each
think
other,
you
but
yeah.
being single is great.
Do you think, okay, so I can so relate to that because I don't know if it's like a woman instinct, or maybe it is because we love nurturing and taking care of our partners and people. But do you think there was a belief that you were holding yourself back because you think you couldn't do it, or was it mainly the relationship side of things that you're putting all your eggs onto that basket?
I feel like I knew that, I guess I was a bit reserved on how, like, I was trying to, I guess, be like with my business, to be marketable, and all of that. But I guess, yeah, I wasn't giving myself all the time that I like needed to really just fully get into it. So yeah, I think I was just like mentally just not prepared to take on all of it. Like I was still putting a lot into the relationship basket rather than my own.
Yeah.
So yeah, and just trying to conform's probably a bad word to use, but just trying to be, the domestic goddess, but then also the independent like the artist, developing a business and that kind of stuff. It's a lot of hats to wear. And then also being a competitor and trying to have a progressive off season and getting ready to go into another prep. So it was, yeah, a lot of hats. So then when I took off one of the hats and put on my one and just decided to go for it completely, that was, yeah, what changed the game for me.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's quite refreshing to hear that, because a lot of people will say, oh no, but like you can make it work and you can have a relationship and you can have the business and you can compete. It's just like, well, yeah, you can, but like at the end of the day, if it's something that's not going to, I guess, help you or lift you up, then why try all of those things when you could just, say bye to one thing and focus on the other.
Absolutely. And if you've got I guess it depends on the kind of relationship that you have, like with that person as well, if they're willing to, lift you up and let you kind of blossom into that person, or if they're holding you back, then, it's time to let that go and just decide to, I think a lot of people feel like they have to stay in situations to keep the peace. Whereas me now, it's just it's probably going to sound really weird, but the more chaos that's in my life, I feel like I embrace that now, and I'm like, what's the next challenge? Because the end of that relationship was hard. It wasn't nice, but and like cheating and things like that involved. So, but that pain and all of that is what I used to then take me to the next level now. So I'm low-key really grateful that it happened, because then I don't think like this would have all progressed as quickly because of how just like my energy around it. I was like, I'm going so hard into this and nothing's holding me back from it. So yeah.
It's so true. Like at the time, we don't really realize how much suffering and pain we go through. But then when you look back and once you put more work into yourself, you realize, oh, wow, like there was a massive lesson from this.
Yeah. And it's cool. Like every time I'm going through like a challenging time, I'm sitting there and I'm actually feeling grateful for it in a weird way. So it's like, because I know when I hit the next high, I'm going to appreciate this period that I'm going through, like for what it served, because then it's, yeah, for me, it's like each low is going to, like another high is going to come after that. It's not always like, it's never flatline. It's always going to be another thing coming after it. So yeah.
100%. That's the beauty of life, ebbs and flows.
Yeah. It's awesome. I love
it. What are the plans for 2023? Are we going back to Olympia this year?
Yeah. So from the last Olympia, I was just set, like fell in love completely, like just being over there and just being in the, like surrounded by everyone, meeting everyone and networking. Like I'm going to be at every single Olympia from now on. It was so cool. So, and just the opportunities that I had there and then the people I've met, it's just, things have grown so quickly. So even like coming back, and then I got the opportunity just last weekend, we had another bodybuilder, an open bodybuilder that's qualified for the next Olympia, Brett Wilkin. He came out and I did content for him this weekend, just gone. So it's just being in that, like being involved in it and being a part of it. It's like, even though we're so far away, like we're just on an island in the middle of nowhere, we've still like got that, like there's still opportunities always. So it's just me really going hard into the business and developing that and my personal brand as well. Just this year is just going to be a big hustle and a big growth period, because now I'm in full off season for another year. So yeah, it's lots of exciting things.
What does the hustle look like for you as a photographer or even as a competitor? Because you're doing, like, yes, you're in the off season right now, but it's still some form of progression for, your next time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like that's like the beauty of bodybuilding, and I guess competitive bodybuilding. You're going through just different phases of your life, and you just kind of got to, like, from my first comp after that, I had a really awful rebound because with the pandemic there was no gym, and I moved interstate. Like it was just, everything was all over the shop. But from this one, even though I ended up really sick after the Olympia, lots of people got really, really sick. I think whether it was COVID or something was spread through there, but literally everyone got sick. I've only just really gotten back. I've got my groove back with training, but it's cool that each phase is going to serve a different purpose. And that's like the beauty of bodybuilding. And I guess like the business as well, I can pick and choose how I want to, like whether I'm in a prep. I was still doing shoots and stuff during prep, but I just managed my time a little bit smarter because I was dying as I got closer to the comp. But this year I can really just go, because I've got all the fuel in the tank. I can go as hard with growing and also with growing the business. But yeah, it's just prioritizing the time. So knowing, like having a good routine and structuring my day is like, I need that for my soul more than anything. So I know how I like to train, like training relatively like early in the morning. I guess mid-morning, I'd say, but going for walks and then planning my day and then editing for hours and hours.
I think
Content, a lot of photos.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think people don't realize how much time and effort photographers put into editing. Because I remember as a photographer, I was editing for hours on end, and people will be like, oh, you just take pictures and then you print them. It's just like, no, it does not work that way. Like, guys, there's an art to this,
100%. And if you're like, I'm a complete perfectionist, so I'll go over and like rehash images and just spend so much time on it. So, but it's so worth it with the end result. Like, it's really just about refining, my process and getting all the things, like using, like, I actually have a artificial intelligence software that culls the images down now, which that was taking me hours. Like if I did a gym shoot, it'd be a couple of hours of just culling the photos and then days to really edit the galleries. So it was taking forever. So that's cut down my workflow significantly. It's an absolute godsend. But yeah, like still being super picky, and like it's art at the end of the day. Like there's no rules around it. So it's every photographer is going to be different. So when a client, not that I've had many that have ever really questioned it, but I've heard like when people talk, they're like, oh, this photographer only, like, they sent me the images the next day, or like, it's like, yeah, cool. They would probably sat up the whole night doing that. I need to sleep. But yeah, everyone's got a different process, but that's what makes it cool at the same time, is that I can structure my day and be the competitor, be the photographer, and that's my thing, and I enjoy that. So it's more about, for me, like creating the environment that I thrive in. So I guess like for coaches that would look like, getting up and having the coffee and doing your check-ins and all that stuff. So for me, it's like going for a walk, sitting down, doing some admin, going to train, coming back, and then I'd usually edit after that. So yeah, it's nice. It's just the environment that you're in is so important.
Yes, exactly right. Literally, you took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say it's the environment, and also having those non-negotiables around your routine. Because again, like if we're not putting ourselves first or taking care of ourselves, like how are you going to be taking care of your work or people or whatever it is? So yeah, I would love for us to finish off with like, what are your main 3 non-negotiables at the moment?
I think getting up and like going for a walk or doing something that's not getting straight into work or straight into social media, like that just sets me up to be like, I feel refreshed like straight away. And coffee always. Does coffee count as one? I'll put that in with the walk.
Habit stacking that one.
Oh, for sure. Oh, it's so good. But just going down the beach and like going for a walk, it's just that's where it is. And I guess non-negotiables, would like training count as that?
Yeah.
Because now that I'm in my off season, it's literally every session, like, because when I'm in prep, you're not growing your muscles really. So it's like, I'd always think like, I can't wait to grow when I'm out of this. So like really prioritizing that is so important for me, because when I get up on stage and showed the package, I'm like, this is exactly where I want to improve. So, and seeing my progression from my first comp to my second was like, I went from having blonde hair to dark hair, and like my physique and everything was just insanely different. So it was really cool to see that progression. So the next one, I want to have an even more improved package. So yeah, that's really important. And the third one, food. I think actually, but obviously I'm a huge foodie, but going out and like actually, so not just eating food for the sake of it, but just like planning little like dates with friends and stuff that I can take time out when I need to. Like that's almost like a non-negotiable for me, is having those little like going out and being social, because I'm an introvert. It's like I'm spending a lot of my time really alone, like hustling, doing the work and training, but then having those little going out, and like I'm going to Melbourne at the end of the week to spend some time with a friend. And yeah, just having experiences with food rather than just eating for the sake of eating. Yeah.
Mm. And you know what, like as a competitor, it can be quite repetitive with a food prep and eating the same food. So you kind of like become a robot during that period of time. But again, like you have a purpose for it.
Yeah. And I feel like as much as it's not balanced in prep because you're very much focused on the one goal, I think it's important. Not everyone's the same. Some people like living their days like robots. I've got a couple of friends that are like that. They'll eat the same stuff every day and be happy as Larry. But I love, yeah, mixing, like having, experiences and going out and going to restaurants and eating pastries. I'm a big fan of almond croissants.
I feel as if a lot of people are into the croissants lately.
Uh, it's always like I get it from my mother. Like she's the biggest pastry fiend. Like she's always baking, and she's like part Italian, so we're the biggest foodies ever. So she's given me her love for pastry. So I've carried that through.
Yeah, it's a good love to have. Everyone loves a good food.
100%. But that's important. Like you've got to enjoy the off periods and not seeing it as, it's not going backwards. It's literally just you're moving through each phase, and you've got to enjoy as much as you can that phase. Like even in prep, when it's hard, it's like that's almost, I guess, enjoyable for me too, because it's such a challenge to, like, it's pushing to that next level. But you've got to have the other side, I think, that's, enjoying life at the same time to make each moment that much better. So yeah.
Definitely finding that balance. And you know what, like that takes us back to you as being a photographer. It's like showcasing everyone's journey, whether it's like during comp prep, whether it's off season, whether it's just you wanting to feel empowered and doing a photo shoot. It's just getting
Absolutely.
it done.
And there's no rules around it all, which is the beauty of it. Like you can have complete control over how you decide to live your life. So, and if that's doing a photo shoot when you're in the middle of your off season, it's awesome because it's so much more creative. There's so much energy around it, and you just being yourself. It's not just about being shredded, like and looking, ridiculous. Like those shots are cool, but then some of my favorite shots are the ones that are curvy and just like you can just feel how like the energy in those photos is just another level. It's really cool. You're like, wow, she's like confident as hell. That's sexy as hell. So
Yeah, it's inspiring to watch. I love
my
that.
job. I love my job because I love feeling like that myself, and I love making other women feel like that. So
Yes.
that's yeah.
That's the goal, you know what? As not only just as a photographer, but like I guess as a business owner or as a woman, you're wanting to inspire other women to embrace themselves a little bit more and feel more confident.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I guess the nursing and all of that's come through as well. It's just nurturing that side of people and just really, yeah. And it's so cool to see that, like, even if it's women that have had like a weight loss journey or something like that, or they haven't, put a lot of time into themselves, whether they have kids and like all that stuff. So having them feel that confidence and then the messages and the love I get from that is just, it makes my heart so happy, just seeing women just fall in love with themselves through the process.
Yeah, I love that. It's so, so good. Emily, I want to thank you for today. This conversation has been so, so good. And I know a lot of our listeners are going to feel so inspired right now to book a photo shoot or do something that is out of their comfort zone. But if they are wanting to do a photo shoot and they are in Queensland or Gold Coast, how can they reach out to you? How can they work with you?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I'm actually pretty much in every single state at least once every couple of months. So I tour, I'm going down to Melbourne and doing a little mini tour this weekend. But I'm usually in Sydney and then Brisbane, Adelaide. I'm usually at least in one major city once, once a year or so, or even more. So yeah, through Instagram, I've got my link that links straight to my website, and I've got a booking link that you can see all the packages. So there's like ones for first timers, there's ones for people that are doing the next season if they're competing, and then all other ones for whoever wants to do a shoot, because it's really cool. I love that I can work with anyone. Like you don't have to fit a certain mold. You don't have to be a competitor. So I think people, when they're seeing stuff on Instagram, they think, oh, I've got to be competing to do a shoot. So I try and post all of my other women as well that just do it for themselves, because I love to see it. So yeah.
I love that. Well, girls, if you enjoyed today's podcast, please make sure that you screenshot it, tag us at the Women's Fitness Academy, tag myself, tag Emily, and then final note, just book that goddamn photo shoot.
Do it for yourself. You never regret doing something for yourself.